It's about 1,285 miles west of the Azores, and those islands may be impacted by a hurricane as it moves along. It will get a little weaker into Friday, but late Thursday into Friday morning, the early morning hours, the Azores may be impacted. Then as we go through the weekend, it becomes post-tropical, but makes a run towards Portugal, potentially Spain. We'll be watching in this area. It will be a weakened system at that point. Now, the other two areas we're watching, Invest 93L, and this is Invest 94L. And 93L now has a 90% chance of development. We're waiting. I mean, I think maybe 11 o'clock we get the update that they name this thing Tropical Depression. And then eventually, if it gets better organized, it becomes Tropical Storm Umberto. Good chances for that. This one here over the next couple of days, probably going to struggle a little bit. But eventually, some of the models do develop it, maybe around the Turks and Caicos or over towards the Bahamas. And then it kind of comes up towards our area here in the mid-Atlantic. It's forecast right now to make a maybe stall or turn and then head off to the northeast. So it's not a certainty that it's going to have direct impacts on us, but these are things we're watching. And sometimes when you get two systems that develop, they can interact with each other. So we're going to be watching for that. There's something called Fujiwara, and when one starts to act, and they can kind of pull around each other a little bit. We sometimes say they do a little do-si-do, whatever. We're going to watch how these things come together, but I'll show you the general thinking. First of all, this is 94L. Couple outliers down to the south, but in general kind of brings it up. Now, there's one model here, one of the runs with the HWARF kind of brings it up closer to the Carolina coast. Most of them kind of stall it out here and recurve it. So think about that. Again, there's a pretty good chance it develops into something in this area, whether it drifts farther north or whether it kind of stalls and then moves east. We'll have to see, but this is kind of the thinking as of now. Another outlier kind of turns it out way earlier. That's the way the spaghetti plot shapes up on 94L. Plenty of time to watch it. Potentially, it could be up in this area by the early part of next week. We'll see. As we take a look at this other area of investigation, this is 93L. This is the one likely to become Umberto. And there's pretty good chances, but you'll notice as it moves up, again, that turn off to the north and then eventually the northeast. So we'll see. Now, if both of these systems develop, could they play into each other and affect each other? Maybe a little bit. We'll see. There's going to be a frontal boundary that comes through, triggers some showers Thursday, late Thursday into Friday, and that frontal boundary is going to cool us down for the weekend. That should, in theory, help protect us a little bit. But if it stalls out or doesn't come all the way through, we're still not dropping our guard on any of this. We'll keep you updated. But at this point, you can see both the systems appear to most likely stay offshore and off to the east. Let's take a look at the Euro and the American. If you watch this show regularly, you know I love to show these graphics. So you see the Euro in red, the GFS or the American model in yellow here. They both develop Umberto. So we'll see if 93L becomes Umberto, but that's what it's thinking. The Euro says, yeah, we're going to take a close look at this. And this is by Sunday. So, we're still talking 5 days out for this scenario to be in place. But as we get into Sunday, you'll notice that the Euro does start to develop what would become Imelda. And you can see potentially that system getting a little stronger here. South of North Carolina, east of, say, Savannah, somewhere in this area. This is to Monday. So still well south of Hampton Roads and northeast North Carolina, but sending out a lot of wave activity. And depending on the size of this and exactly where it's located, we could be seeing more cloud cover, maybe a little bit of increased wind here and possibly some rain for the southeast coast. That would be into Monday. But look at what happens here. It gets a little stronger, and then you'll notice it starts to kick eastward. Remember, there's a frontal boundary here, and that should, again, in theory, even if this thing does develop, it should keep it offshore. Again, here's Hampton Roads. And this isn't three different systems. This is two systems, and the GFS develops what should become Umberto. This is the Euro's version of Umberto, both of them between Bermuda and Hampton Roads, well offshore. Okay, so we're taking a look at that. Okay, the Euro also develops Imelda. So we'll see if this happens. Again, you don't see the American model really developing that system there. Interesting, right? So we'll see how they go, but after that, they should all slide back off to the east. So again, the mid-Atlantic in these scenarios would be spared direct impacts, but certainly some more surf, maybe some beach erosion down along the Outer Banks, another concern if we get a couple of significant tropical systems offshore. So that's what we're going to be watching, and then after that, they move off to the east. Again, the two names next up, Umberto and Imelda. And you can see, again, there's Gabrielle, now a Cat 3, but at one point it was a Cat 4. All right, I want to show you what's happening with Narda over in the Pacific. Again, the 8th hurricane of the Eastern Pacific, and you can see it's out there, and actually a Cat 2 hurricane now. Narda is moving west at 13 with winds of 105, gusting to 125. It is forecast to turn back to the north, and we'll see if it comes back a little bit, but as a remnant low. So it should weaken over time as it makes that turn. All right. Remember, for the latest on the tropics, you want to check out the Hurricane Hub live right here on 13 News Now Plus every night, 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages takes an even closer look at what's happening in the Atlantic, in the Pacific, and all things tropics. On the weekend, meteorologist Hunter Forst has it for you. So you can check that out every night during the hurricane season at 8 o'clock. That's Hurricane Hub Live. One of the hurricanes that really impacted our area, Helene. And today marks 1 year since Hurricane Helene formed. Now remember, it made landfall in the Big Bend region of Florida and then went on to bring heavy rain and catastrophic flooding to several other states. Western North Carolina saw the worst of the damage. Tonight, or I should say earlier, one first responder is reflecting on lessons learned from the storm.
For many, Hurricane Helene was in a league of its own.
It was worse than we anticipated, but we knew it was going to be bad.
Cove Creek Fire Chief Steve Marks says he saw the warning signs on the weather models and called his crew in early. Preparation, he says, was their first line of defense against the storm.
To make sure that we have the infrastructure and the equipment that we need.
He says preparedness also starts at home.
If our volunteers aren't prepared at home, they're not going to be able to respond. Or if they're here, they're not going to be comfortable about their loved ones being alone at home.
When the storm arrived, he watched Highway 321 vanish underwater.
Instead of seeing cars drive down the road, we saw debris. We saw outbuildings.
For days, the fire station was without power after it was hit by a landslide.
When the hill slid down, it took our propane tank with it, which disconnected the gas line to the generator, which caused the generator to stop. Boom, no electricity.
When the signal went dark, they figured out other ways to get power.
One of our fire trucks has got an onboard generator, so we were using it to recharge radios, to recharge the flashlights.
Firefighters manually pushed bay doors open, relied on maps and small rescue vehicles to navigate through the community.
That small little UTV got us into spaces that these big trucks would not go. And it carries some rescue equipment.
For days, the community was cut off.
The problem was for the next, say, 72 hours, if people needed help, they couldn't call. They had no cell service. And so we quickly moved into, let's evaluate where we think the greatest damage is, send our UTV, send our pickup truck out, and make sure these folks are okay.
The chief says the biggest lesson is simple. Be prepared and lean on each other.
Perhaps the greatest success story that came out of this was that community involvement, that in the face of this, tragedy, this huge crisis, neighbor helping neighbor.
Because when disasters strike, it's the community that keeps you going.
And there are always lessons learned from these massive storms that come through. It's amazing to see the resiliency. And again, they were very resourceful in figuring out those emergency, responders and first responders. They did a great job of still being able to serve the community, even with those hurdles that you saw there. All right, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of days about Ragasa. This was a typhoon impacted Philippines, Taiwan, came through really impacting Hong Kong. As this thing has moved along, you can take a look here and see Hong Kong. And the center of this, I've got this loop. You'll notice the northern eye wall when it came by south of Hong Kong, about 60 miles there from Hong Kong. So this was a very powerful storm, and it has done a lot of damage. Tens of millions of people in Asia are dealing with impacts from Typhoon Ragasa, from Hong Kong to southern China and the Philippines. This is a look at some of the damage in Taiwan, where flooding has submerged entire neighborhoods. If you look closely here, you can see a bridge that collapsed due to the floodwaters. Can you see that? Here's another look at the damage in Taiwan. As of this morning, at least 17 people died and 17 still missing after a dam holding back a lake also collapsed. Now let's take a look at the aftermath in Hong Kong. Typhoon Ragasa is the most powerful storm on the planet this year. At its peak, it was the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. Hanako Montgomery has a closer look at the conditions now in Hong Kong.
Typhoon Ragasa is currently hitting Hong Kong right now, and it's at its peak, and we're right in the heart of it. And you can tell just how powerful the storm is by the fact that I can't even really stand upright right now. The winds are measuring at about 100 miles per hour, and it's causing the rain to come in sideways and just completely pelt my face. And right now I'm by Hong Kong Harbor, and if you take a look over there, you can see sea swells and storm surges. And the Hong Kong Observatory, which is the city's main weather forecaster, has warned that these storm surges can go up to 4 meters in height. And you can tell that by just looking at the sea right now. It looks very, very dangerous. And some of this water is coming onto this walkway here. Wow. And hitting this walkway and splashing us. Now, whoo! It's very, very powerful. And again, the Hong Kong government has warned residents just to stay inside because this is a very powerful typhoon, the most powerful to hit the city this year. Wow! Woo! Storm surge just there. Very, very powerful. You can taste the seawater. Now, Hong Kong has issued its highest warning level to its residents to, again, just stay inside, hunker down, and residents have really taken that advice to heart, have bought supplies at supermarkets and stayed indoors. Schools have also been closed for 2 days, and non-essential businesses have also been ordered to remain shut. Now, climate change, which is a human-caused disaster, is causing these storms to be more extreme and unpredictable. Hanako Montgomery, CNN, Hong Kong.
All right, we appreciate her report from Hong Kong. And as we take a look here, you can see it is past Hong Kong. It is still moving along to the west, and it has weakened considerably. At one point, it was a Category 5 super typhoon. So it has weakened, and it's now moving over land. It will continue to weaken as it moves farther inland and eventually pushes into Vietnam. So we'll be watching that. Now we want to take you to Thailand, where a sinkhole destroyed a busy road in Bangkok. Now take a look at this sinkhole. This is not just a little small kind of isolated sinkhole. It took out a massive section of the street. Look at it just collapse. You can see a truck fell down there. The folks lining up along the road. I mean, an entire section collapsed, and it swallowed the cars, electrical poles, cut off traffic. That sinkhole was nearly 10,000 square feet and 200 feet deep. Fortunately, and really unbelievably, no deaths have been reported. That's pretty amazing. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back in just 2 minutes, we're going to take a look at NASA's IMAP launch, that Falcon 9 rocket launch from the Space Coast down in Florida. We'll show you that, and we're going to revisit climate's health impacts. That's coming up in 2 minutes. Welcome back. All right, the weather this morning, it was good at Cape Canaveral and over Florida. The winds were light, the skies were mainly clear. And folks, we have liftoff at 7:30 this morning. SpaceX and NASA, NOAA, they all combined and launched a new mission, actually 3 missions on one rocket to help scientists track weather in space. Let's take a look.
E-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go IMAP, go Swifo L1, and go Carruthers.
I love this so much. That's the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket taking off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The IMAP mission, or the IMAP stands for Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, was actually supposed to launch yesterday, but it got pushed back one day. The mission aims to help better understand elements like solar storms and other potential hazards for future missions. It was so cool to see that launch. That is one rocket has 3 different things that are being set out, 3 different missions that are tied to it. The IMAP, the one that we were just talking about, it is going to be used. It's going to be positioned about 930,000 miles from Earth. So it's way out there, almost 1 million miles away. But it's in an area called Lagrange, okay, L1. And what this means, okay, they found the point between the Earth and the sun where the gravitational pull is about even, and the motion from the orbit around the sun. Again, all of these things create what we call equilibrium, where there's not going to take much to keep that probe positioned and looking at the sun. So now you've got this probe up there, the IMAP, that's going to be able to monitor all of the solar activity coming from the sun without interruption. It's going to give us more heads up on solar storms when there's mass coronal ejections and we get all of this energy, these things that create those solar storms. And space weather in general, there's the Carruthers and there's the SWFO, the Swifo L1 also going up there. That was launched by NOAA. And all of this is going to give us more information and help us prepare for future missions like Artemis going to the moon and eventually to Mars. So some really good stuff. Fortunately, it was a successful launch. We love that. All right, while we're taking a look at this big blue marble, Earth, you know, 2024 was the warmest year ever recorded. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Easy for me to say. You know it as NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The CDC warns a changing climate can impact human health, from poor air quality and extreme heat to flooding and wildfires. Experts say the risks range from heart attacks to strokes to respiratory illnesses and complications during pregnancy. All right, we're going to bring it back into the United States, and we can take this map full. You'll notice there are a few areas where we do have some advisories, and you can see some different flood advisories down across Texas, a couple of those, a flood warning a little farther to the west with some heavier rain working through there. Southern Arkansas also seeing some flood advisories and flood warnings back across Tennessee. These areas of rain producing some heavy downpours. Now, as far as the severe weather threat goes, you see it's from Kentucky and Tennessee back down across Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. I was taking a look. Is there an elevated tornado risk? No, not really. Is there an elevated hail risk? Nope. The primary concern here would just be gusty winds and outflow from those storms. Now, we do have the potential for excessive rainfall as we go through the afternoon and evening, especially back across Tennessee, up into Kentucky, parts of West Virginia and southern Ohio. So we'll be watching that. That's a level 2 threat here. So some flash flooding likely from Huntsville to Nashville, all the way up through Grayson, Kentucky, up towards Charleston. For some of the westernmost parts of Virginia and North Carolina, there's a level 1 threat. We are not under any threats here in Hampton Roads. For tomorrow, the flood potential, just a level 1 out along the Blue Ridge and back up into the northeast around New York City, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, those areas, and southern parts of Massachusetts. They could see some excessive rain there. We also have a level 1 or marginal threat for severe storms. Again, not tornadoes, not hail, but gusty winds associated with those storms tomorrow. We'll watch for that. All right, we are currently seeing some heavier activity down to the south. We can take a look at some of the scattered wet weather across portions of Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia. I was really looking at some of this heavy rain, though, south of Dallas approaching Waco, this line of very intense rain. That's one of the areas we're monitoring. We also have the heavy rain from what was Texarkana earlier. That's pushed past that, now impacting El Dorado, so southern portions of Arkansas back over towards Greenville, northern Louisiana, Shreveport seeing some storms, Monroe as well, and then back across Alabama, you've got areas just south of Huntsville, some pretty intense storms and more wet weather, as I mentioned, back up across parts of West Virginia and pushing through northern sections of West Virginia. Morgantown, it's going to be a soggy one there today. Northern parts of Virginia will see more scattered showers as well. Hampton Roads looking pretty good. Skies mostly sunny today. Excited about what will be a nice day. It is going to be warm, though, and humid. Temperatures in the upper 80s. It'll feel like it's in the low 90s with the humidity. So almost a summer day here in Hampton Roads. I know calendar says fall, but it's feeling summerish. As we look ahead to tomorrow evening, chances for showers and storms around here. We should have another mostly sunny day and another warm day tomorrow, but by tomorrow evening, chances for some wet weather west and off to the north. Now, as we go overnight and into Friday, some more showers and storms early Friday morning, pre-sunrise off to the north. Later Friday, we'll look for some additional development, maybe down across parts of North Carolina and near the coast. This is Friday afternoon, but watch what happens Friday evening. Some more development with heavier activity here in Hampton Roads. Remember, we could use some rain. For the year, we're about 5 inches below average in Norfolk. Looking out, you can see some cirrus clouds near the coast. The wave action, not nearly what it was. We've had high threats of rip currents as we check out the Thompson Creek Window Company sky view. Right now, southwest winds at 7 miles per hour. The waves have settled down, and at the beaches, we do have a moderate threat of rip currents, but remember, it was high for the past couple of days. Surf height 2 to 3 feet, UV index high. Still be mindful, you could find a few rip currents out there, so use caution if you are going to the beaches today. Out on the water, the wind's not bad at all. We're going to find them generally 10 to 15 knots. I think that'll be the case on the ocean. And then as we go on the bay, more like 5 to 10 with gusts to 15. Wave height in the bay, only about 1 to 2 feet. The high tide this morning, 11:24. We've got a low tide at 5:45. Highs today, upper 80s. A lot of sunshine. Should be a very nice day, but it is going to be a steamy one. Looking to the north, upper 70s to low 80s for the eastern shore. Mid to upper 80s for the peninsula and around Gloucester. A little cooler at Matthews. Also cooler at the Outer Banks, low 80s there. Around Edenton, Elizabeth City, we have temperatures a little bit warmer. Now, it'll be mainly clear tonight, maybe mainly clear to partly cloudy, a low of 71. 88 tomorrow, mostly sunny. As we look ahead over the rest of the week, you're going to find those chances for showers increasing Friday into Saturday, some scattered wet weather. On Sunday and Monday, might be a little bit breezy, and there'll be a chance for a couple of showers. What happens Monday into maybe early Tuesday could also be impacted a little bit by the tropics. Right now, the thinking is those systems stay offshore and will roll out to the east. We'll keep an eye to it and let you know if anything changes. A great way to stay up on our forecast is by downloading the 13 News Now mobile app. Take it with you on the go. Radars, news updates, weather, and traffic updates at your fingertips. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. You found us here on the Weather Desk. We'll see you next time.